Hello everyone, I'm Arunima from Knit and Otter, and in this video I'm going to show you how to make a square using the Tunisian in the round technique. So for this you need a double-ended crochet hook. For this tutorial I'm going to use this clover hook, which is a size 6 millimeters, and I'm going to use Lily Sugar and Cream yarn in 2 colors. You can do this with one color, but you will need 2 strands, one for the forward pass and one for this reverse pass. So I think that the effect of Tunisian in the round in a square comes out best when you use 2 colors. So I recommend using 2 colors. Now if you do not have one of these, it's completely fine to use to build a double-ended hook using an interchangeable set that you might have. So I have the Denise interchangeable set, and these are 2 hooks from it. This is the 8 millimeter size and this is the 6.5 millimeters, and I've joined them using a cord. You can use whatever size cord you'd like, and what I usually do is I pick one hook for the forward pass and then I pick the next smaller size for the reverse pass. This is because I don't have 2 hooks of the same size, and this usually works out really well. So I have not had any issues working like this. So this is a good way of building a double-ended hook if you don't have one of these. And this is the one problem that I have with this is that it only comes until size 6 millimeters. So if I need a larger hook, I have to work with my interchangeable set. For this video, this will work out perfectly. Well, actually, for this technique, this hook is really great. But unfortunately they only come up to 6 millimeters in size. The other thing that you'll need is some stitch markers. I usually use 4 stitch markers to mark my 4 corners, and I'm going to show you how I do that. But I'm going to go ahead and start with the instructions. So here is my main color, and I'm going to start with a magic loop, and I'm going to make 8 single crochet stitches in this magic loop. So that's 1, 8 single crochet stitches, and at this point I go ahead and I close that loop, and I'm going to join with that first single crochet stitch here. So I insert my hook here and I join with a slip stitch. So this works as the foundation round for the square. And starting now, we're going to work Tunisian crochet and not regular crochet. So this loop on your hook, this counts as the first stitch. So this is the first sort of TSS or simple stitch. And now I'm going to go ahead and follow the instructions. So initially, it might feel like this won't work out because of the way it looks when we make the first few stitches, but the first 2 rounds are the hardest in this. Once you have those set up, then it gets really easy because it's easy to see the shape. So just trust the counts and do what's written in the instructions exactly, and I'll show you how I do it so it's easy. And so I'll begin now. So this is the first TSS, and then there's a yarn over, TSS yarn over in the next. So when I say TSS, I'm just inserting my hook in the 2 horizontal bars of the next single crochet, yarn over and pull through, and then yarn over. So that's 1, and then another TSS in the next stitch. So I have to repeat this 3 times. So I'm going to stop here and I'm going to start the reverse pass so I don't forget where I am. It's easy to forget where I am in the beginning. When I made these for the first time, I had to undo and restart at least 4 or 5 times to get them right because I kept forgetting what stitch I was at, so I've decided to only do a little at a time, at least in the beginning. So here I attach, for the reverse pass, I attach my other yarn, and yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and I usually leave these 2 on the hook so that I have it's easy to build on the other side, build on this on the other side. So here now for the next repeat, I have yarn over, TSS, yarn over in the next, yarn over, simple stitch again by picking up the two horizontal bars of the single crochet, pull through, and then yarn over, and then again TSS in the next one. So that's the second repeat. And I'm going to stop here, I'm going to reverse this, and I'm going to make the return pass until I have 2 loops on the hook. I try to stay disciplined about this so I don't forget how many stitches I've made and where I am in the project. It's just one of those things that I do, but you can find whatever works for you. So that's now the third repeat is again yarn over, simple stitch, yarn over, and then a simple stitch in the next. So that's the third repeat, and I'm going to turn and make the reverse pass. And then turn again for the forward pass. So you make your forward pass in one direction in using one side of the hook and the reverse pass using the other, and that's just a constant throughout the project. That's how we work Tunisian in a round. So to end this, I have to yarn over, simple stitch, and then yarn over, and we will not. So this is the 8th single crochet, and we've completed the full round, and I'm going to hold this yarn here and I'm going to make the reverse pass. The only one thing that you have to remember is this ends with a yarn over, and it's easy to forget when you're coming back to the forward pass, so make sure that you have that held properly so that loop, you don't lose that one loop from the hook. So the reverse pass, and then again I'm leaving 2 loops on the hook and making sure that I don't lose that yarn over, and here I am at the beginning. So this is how it looks, and at this point I go ahead and I attach some stitch markers. So this is going to be my first corner, that first TSS from this round, and then I'm going to skip this TSS and find the next one, and that is going to be my second corner. And I'm going to skip the next, and then this next one is going to be my third corner. And skip the next, and this one is going to be the last corner. So I would recommend using stitch markers, a different stitch marker for the first one, and the rest of them the same color or whatever, however you'd like to code it, so that you know which one is your first one of the round. I'm sorry. So I have a full box of these, but I can't locate where it is. So I just have these 4, and I wanted to show you how to use these stitch markers. But so in my case right now, the second yellow is where I started. But if you have 3 of the same color and this one of a different color, the one that you started, that'll be very easy for you to see where you are in the project at any given time. So here, now for the next row, for the next round, I'm not going to join. I'm just going to continue working from here. So for this, I'm going to start with a simple stitch on top of this corner simple stitch. And then a full stitch. So if you see this yarn over here, if you see this yarn over here, it creates this little space in between. So there is this front vertical bar and this back vertical bar for that yarn over as well from the previous row. So we're going to make one full stitch before these and then sort of a knit stitch in between these. So I'll show you how that goes. You start with a full stitch and then a knit stitch between the two vertical bars of the chain space. That was the yarn over from the previous round. So that, and then a TSS. So this is a simple stitch. I'm going to make a simple stitch on top of this. So I have all the terms that I'm using here, the simple stitch, full stitch, knit stitch. I have separate tutorials for all of these, and I'm going to add links in the description below so you can find them. So I have here, so I'm at simple stitch and then there's a knit stitch in the chain space or in that yarn over. So again, here is my yarn over from the previous round. This is the front vertical bar, this is the front vertical bar, and here is the back vertical bar, and I'm going to insert my hook in between to make that knit stitch here. And then a full stitch in between. This is simple stitch from the previous round, and this is that yarn over. So in between the two, I'm going to make a full stitch. So I'm going to insert my hook there and yarn over, pull through. So that completes one repeat. So that is one edge of the square. I'm going to make the reverse pass. Just yarn over, pull through two, and I'm going to do that until I have reached, until I have only 2 loops on the hook. I'm going to leave 2 loops on the hook. So there you go. Then turn it around, and I'm going to make the second repeat. So you can see that the second repeat starts from the corner stitch. So this was the first corner, that is where it started from. This is the second corner, and that's where I'm going to start my second repeat. So that's simple stitch and then full stitch and then a knit stitch in that yarn over or chain space, and then a simple stitch and then a knit stitch in the next yarn over or chain space, and then a full stitch. So that completes repeat 2. I'm going to make the return pass. So I now have 2 loops on my hook. I'm going to, from the forward pass, I'm going to turn around and make the third repeat for that round. And again, that one also starts with the corner. So this is my next corner, and I'm going to insert my hook here, make a simple stitch and then a full stitch and then a knit stitch in that yarn over or chain space, and then a simple stitch in the next, and a knit stitch in that yarn over or chain space, and then a full stitch. So that completes the third repeat for that round. And coming back to the forward pass, and I am going to make that fourth repeat. So this is the third corner, and this is the this is the fourth corner, and this is my first corner. So before this corner, I'm going to end my this round. So for this last repeat, it's a simple stitch, a full stitch, a knit stitch, a simple stitch, a knit stitch. So this one is a little hard to see, but you can see that there is this yarn over the front and back vertical bars. So you make a knit stitch there, and then there is this space between that yarn over and the simple stitch. So the yarn over from 2 rounds back, and this I'm sorry, the yarn over from the previous round, and this is the first stitch of this round. So a full stitch in between the two there. That ends this round. So this is the second round, and this will complete the second round after we make the return pass. So as always, I just leave those 2 loops on the hook. So that completes round 2, and you can start seeing a small square shape here. Here, this is how it's looking, and I'm going to make a round or 2 more to show you how it looks further. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and move my stitch markers. I do that for a few rounds until I get a hang of how my pattern or how my square is looking. So I'm just removing that from the simple stitch and then moving it up to the next simple stitch that was built on top of that. So I do that for all 4. And now I'm going to make the next round, which is round 3, and I start with a simple stitch and then a full stitch. So this is the space where you make your full stitch, and then 5 simple stitches. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then a full stitch. So that ends before the next corner stitch. So you have a total of, so this was the first two were from the previous round. So they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 stitches in the round 3 so far. I'm going to go ahead and do the reverse pass. Now for the next repeat, you can start with a simple stitch and a full stitch. So you can see that these full stitches on the 2 sides of the corner, they're the increases for the round. So with every round we're increasing, and for every edge we're increasing with 2 stitches. So there's 1 stitch before a corner stitch, and there's 1 stitch, 1 full stitch after a corner stitch. So that is what is making the increases and maintaining that square shape. So after the full stitch, then there's 5 simple stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then 1 full stitch before that next corner. So you can see how it is very useful to have these corner stitches marked. If you don't, then it'd be very difficult to see where you are in this project. As this grows, as you can see the square shape easily, it gets easier, and then you don't need the stitch markers anymore. But I still like to keep them so that if there were a situation where I'd forgotten where I was or can't figure out, then it's then I don't have to frog all the way. So going forward, making the reverse or the return pass, and the return pass is very simple. You just have to yarn over, pull through 2, and it's the same for pretty much any stitch that you make, unless you have some special stitches which do different things in the return pass, but for most stitches you just do the exact same thing. So now here's the third repeat, which is simple stitch and full stitch, and then 5 simple stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then a full stitch. That completes the third repeat. Now onto the fourth repeat. Simple stitch, full stitch, 5 simple stitches. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this is the corner, so you can see this is the first stitch of this round. I'm going to make a full stitch right before that. So that completes the fourth repeat, and that completes the third round. So that's how it's looking. You can see the square shaping up, and you can see these corner stitches. These corner stitches will just build the corner on top of each other by making a stitch on top of each other there. So you can do this with different kinds of stitches. You can make different. I've only used simple stitches in this entire pattern with full stitch increases, so there are different ways of doing increases. There are different stitches that can be used for the corners. There's different patterns that you can create with this. The technique remains the same. You just have to have 2 increases per edge on every row, and this is how it's done. So I'm going to do one more row, and this time I'll do reverse stitches. And the other thing that I wanted to point out here was, if you wanted a different color for your reverse pass, you'd have to go all the way, and if you're starting the color at the beginning of a round, then you'd have to complete these two, the return pass with these 2 stitches also, and after you're done with these 2, then you'd change your color. So I'm going to show you how. I'm not going to change color, but I'm going to tell you exactly where to do it. So for the next round, I'm not going to move my stitch markers anymore, but I would if I were making an actual project. This is just a swatch. So I'm going to start with a simple stitch, and for the next round, so you can see that because we had 5 stitches in the previous, 5 simple stitches, and then we added 2 full stitches, so for this round you'd have 7 stitches on one edge, 7 simple stitches, or reverse stitches in our case. So I'm going to make that first simple stitch and then a full stitch increase, and I'm going to make 7 reverse stitches. So that is another stitch which you can find in my tutorials. So I'm just going to make this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and then a full stitch. So this full stitch is also right before that corner stitch. I've reached the corner again, so I'm making one before. So this is the first edge, and I'm going to make my return pass, and now at this point I'm going to do 2. So this completes round 2, At this point is when I would change color if I wanted to for a new round. So I guess the fact that I always keep 2 loops on the hook keeps me, I don't get confused where my round ends, because at any given point I keep 2 stitches or 2 loops on the hook from the previous whatever I was working on. So if this is the beginning of the round, this edge is from the beginning of the round, then the first 2 stitches were from the previous round. So I have to complete the return pass for those and then change color at this point and use the next color for the return pass for the rest. So for this tutorial, I'm just going to continue working with this. Now I have 2. So you can see that the reverse stitch shows up like this. And I'm going to make the full 4 edges with the reverse stitch. So that's simple stitch, full stitch increase, 7 reverse stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and a full stitch increase. So that's the end of the second edge or the second repeat. And in the third edge, it's a simple stitch, full stitch increase, 7 reverse stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and a full stitch increase. And this is the fourth edge. So this is a simple stitch and a full stitch and 7 reverse stitches. And a full stitch increase, and we've reached that corner again. You can see that these simple stitches from the corner line up on top of one another. So here it is. Here is the end of 3 rows, and this is how it's looking. You can see the square, you can see the corners, how they're building up, and you just keep going with this. The pattern is very straightforward, where you just build the corners, you build the edges, and then you have increases at the corners. So that's pretty much all there is to this pattern. I think it's really easy, and it's very easy to build. You just have to figure out how to work with 2 strands of yarn, one for the forward pass and one for the return pass, and that's that's all there is to it. And here, this is how it's looking at the back. This will look different when you use different stitches, and the best part is you can keep going. There's no you don't really have to switch colors at any point, unless you need your reverse pass or the forward pass in a different color. But if you're just using two colors, you can use different kinds of stitches and build some really pretty patterns. And the only thing that's remaining here is doing the bind off row, and that's I'm going to show you how to do that. So for the bind off row, I'm just going to go ahead and complete the return pass. And at this point, I can choose what color I want to do it with. So for the purpose of this tutorial, I'm just going to go ahead and make it with this color. But if you wanted the main color, you could just you could pick this, pull it here, and tighten that and use that instead. So for this, I'm going to use this one. And so you'd have to maintain the pattern if you're even in the bind off row. So I'm going to start with a simple stitch, and I'm going to bind off using the single crochet technique. So it's a single crochet and then a full stitch and bind off single crochet, and then I'm going to do simple stitches for my bind off. So that's 1. I'll have to do 9 now. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 before I reach the corner. And then I'm going to do a full stitch increase, and then a simple stitch, and then a full stitch increase, and then continue on the next edge the same way. So that would be 9 simple stitches with the bind off. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then a full stitch increase and a simple stitch for the corner, and another full stitch increase for the third edge. So you could do this with slip stitches as well, but I'd like to do that with single crochet stitches. You can choose whichever method you'd like. So now simple stitches, 9 simple stitches. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then an increase, full stitch increase, and that's the last corner. So simple stitch and then a full stitch increase and 9 simple stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and well, that's loose because I haven't fastened that off. I could have fastened that off, and find that, so here, this is where that first single crochet from this round is. I'm going to make a full stitch there and single crochet, and I'm going to join with that first single crochet. There you go. That's how it looks. I'm going to remove these stitch markers now. So at this point you can cut the yarn, fasten off, weave in ends. So it's a little bit of a mess right now, but I'm just going to show you how it's looking. So this is the square. This is a nice little square, and you can see how all the edges, you just keep working the edges flat, and then you increase at the corners. You can see these corners are lining up nicely, and there can be different ways of building the increases. There can be different ways of making the corners, but overall the technique will remain the same, wherein there would be, the edges would be built a certain way, and then there'd be some increase, a way to increase at the corners, and then there'll be the corners themselves. So that's all that there is for this. There is here's how it looks at the back. And so if you have any questions about this, feel free to reach out to me. I have one pattern, that's my sampler blanket, which uses this technique, and I have a square there which I've made using this, and but I know that there can be so many more designs and patterns that can be made with this. So feel free to experiment, and if you do, please share some pictures with me. I'd love to see what you can do with it. And I have a bunch of other tutorials on my channel which you're welcome to check out, and I also have a lot of free patterns on my blog which you can take a look. I'm going to add a link to all of these in the description below. If you like this video, please like and subscribe to my channel, and hit the bell button if you'd like to receive notifications for any future tutorials that I release. And I usually make a lot of support videos for my pattern, so I released all of those on my channel as well, so you'd be able to see what is coming in the future. So thank you for watching. I'll see you in my other videos. Bye bye.